Welcome, everyone. If you are catching the replay, thank you for taking the time to tune in to this conversation. I'm excited to be joined by Scott Jackson, who's with us this morning from London, which has become his second home. He used to be a Canadian. And Anita's joined us this morning. And we're going to have a conversation around nature deficit disorder, which is kind of a hot topic these days. And Scott, I want to hear, like, you live in this major urban area. What does that look like to the people, of UK and especially London? And what is their kind of concerns around their connection to nature?
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult when you live in a big city, and we've worked we live inside concrete buildings and we go outside. There's very few green spaces around. That's part of the problem. But the other part of the problem is there is a fear to go outside, particularly for our children. We're afraid of them going out and getting hurt. We're afraid of them going out and, it's not safe to go outside anymore. There's a lot more traffic, there's a lot more people inside. So what ends up happening is we get sort of contained to being indoors and keeping our, sort of like the mother hen situation, scooping up her chicks and keeping them underneath her. And gradually what that means is that we're losing touch with nature. And that's really unfortunate because we sit in our living rooms and we watch nature documentaries and we celebrate, how great nature is, but we're afraid to go outside ourselves. And so I just think if there's ways we can bring nature kind of inside more, it might help.
Wow, I had never thought about what you just said about how we watch these nature documentaries, but we don't go there. That idea in itself is like kind of hard to fathom.
Particularly recently, one of our most celebrated nature documentary presenters is David Attenborough, and there's a term that people use. It's called the Attenborough effect, and the most famous one recently is that by showing people around the world not to use plastic straws, now all the restaurants and coffee shops in the UK have completely gone to paper straws. So there is people listening and caring about the environment, but I just feel like there's a gap between going out and getting your hands dirty and understanding what these plants are, how they can help us on a sort of a deeper level.
Yeah.
Are we just experiencing them through glass?
And I think what modern science is now showing us is that when we're not exposed to the biology of plants and animals, that it impacts our immune systems. And there's a lot of work being done on breathing in your biome, meaning intentionally visiting 4 different biomes a day, plant areas. Maybe you're around some spruce trees, maybe you're in the garden, maybe you're out on a lawn, to breathe in that air, because wherever there are plants, there are different microorganisms in the air, and exposing our lungs and our skin and our body to these different environments helps our immune system. And we know that being around the influence and the energy of plants has effects on our blood pressure, on our stress levels, on our energy levels. So it's actually the physical contact with them that is really helpful, right?
Yeah, and I find it affects your mental health quite a lot as well. That there is really a detachment, like it almost feels like a physical barrier, whether it's a window or whether it's just that disconnection between I don't know what these plants are. I feel like that disconnection kind of makes us feel lost in our environment, and that causes a lot of stress.
Yeah, disconnection is a great word. So my experience with this piece of disconnection is I grew up on a farm, and Scott knows this because we're related, visited our farm many times as kids. Of course, he grew up in Canada. And
Yes.
you know, you were very exposed to the outdoors as a child, you know, had a lake life cabin and things like that, and outdoors parents. So I grew up on the farm. I went away to school, got a corporate job with John Deere, which would seem like, okay, that's still farm related, but I was not exposed very much to actual plants and farm production. I was, again, in
Mm.
boardrooms, on flights to factories in big cities around the world that produce John Deere tractors, talking to people over the phone. And what happened to me over my 12 years in that environment is I felt that disconnection to the earth and to the energy. And where I used to enjoy that walk in the bush and feel safe, that started to feel foreign to me. And there was that disconnection. And I think more and more we're hearing that from people. And one of the amazing things that happened for me was someone introduced me to essential oils, and it was actually for physical health purposes that they did for my children. And they said you should
Okay.
try these oils to support your kids' physical health. But what it did for me personally, breathing in essential oils, which are the lifeblood of the plant. So you take plants, you steam distill them, and it's like sort of like the blood of the plant becomes the essential oil. And by using essential oils, something profound, and I'd even go so far as to say spiritual, happened, where I felt a reconnection back to the natural world, back to the plant kingdom. And that was a small start in me starting to become more interested in, like, oh, where do these plants come from? How come it feels so good to breathe them in? Maybe I want more of that. And it kind of opened my eyes to, like, wow, I have been blocked off from this energy.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. How something relatively simple can connect us to something quite deep that we're missing.
Yeah, quite profound. And one of the things I suggest to people, because now I'm an essential oil educator, is that if you are traveling, you know, and you're in airplanes and airports, and if you're crossing time zones, to use an essential oil that comes from your like native home, to ground yourself on that journey and keep you connected, keep you energetically connected to the earth. So for me, you know, there's lots of pine trees here. I don't know what, you
Yeah.
know, what is native to your area, Scott. What type of trees are native to your area?
Well, it in London it's very difficult to find native trees.
Okay.
Because most of the gardens and things are artificial. Interesting that you bring up that point because people travel to these places and say, "Oh, I had such a lovely time in Nepal. I'm going to bring back this bush, and when I walk past it, it's going to bring me back to that place, even though I live in chaos." So we actually have quite a diverse amount of plants around. But I would say more true to my Canadian roots that I do find sort of coniferous smells very grounding because it reminds me of the cabin growing up and being around the lakes and fresh air. So there's certainly a connection, kind of the opposite, where I feel like when I'm homesick for Canada, smell is quite a good connection.
Yeah. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the emotional aspect of essential oils. So there's essential oils that certainly support specific body systems. So for example, I share information about Young Living essential oils because of their purity. And there's oils like peppermint that's great for headaches, digest that's great for your stomach. And applying those oils physically to your body is going to help you if something's wrong. So you put some oils here, it's going to help with a headache. But I love how Scott has brought up this emotional connection. And so when he's longing for home and he smells the tree oils from home, when we breathe in oils, like we either put them on our body and we breathe them in, or Young Living offers a diffuser with their oil collection. So what this does is breaks the oil particles up into small pieces and then you breathe it in. When we breathe in natural scent, it hits our limbic brain. That's our emotional brain, triggering deep primal emotions within us. So
Mm.
Scott doesn't have to think, oh, I'm going to smell pine oil. Oh, that's like Canada. Oh, that reminds me of home. He doesn't have to go through that analytical thought process. It is deep within his psyche from walking as a child through the bush. When he smells it, it automatically takes him there. And so it's
Yeah.
no different than when you walk into the coffee shop and you're like, oh, coffee, and it creates this emotional trigger in your body and it takes you to that place. So for those of us who are struggling with, this idea of nature deficit disorder, we, for various reasons, maybe we're not mobile, maybe we can't get into nature, maybe we are in this urban jungle. We can be using these oils to support us back to an emotional state that brings us comfort, connects us to the earth, and as Scott said, reminds us that we're connected to something so much bigger.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's it takes a long time to grow a spruce tree in your back garden.
Yes.
So it's like the convenience side of it as well. It, the problem, it's affecting us now. While we're working on getting gradual exposure, it's good to have something a bit more concentrated that we can use more regularly as well.
Yeah, and I think that that's where essential oils have come into our life. So most people get started with what is called a starter kit from Young Living. So it looks like this, and it has 12 of your most commonly used oils. And the reason that families appreciate having these 12 oils in their homes is it's so easy for us to forget that the original medicine that supported our humanity was plant medicine. And so we now are trained to grab a pill, grab a prescription. And in getting these 12 oils, what our family did was we retrained ourselves in learning about natural options. And lots of these natural options are things that you are probably familiar with. When you think about having a cup of peppermint tea after you eat,
Mhm.
or an after dinner mint, or the peppermint garnish on your plate. Peppermint's so good for digestion, and you can take a drop of peppermint and just rub it right on your belly where you have any sort of pain, and get that connection to natural healing without popping a bunch of Tylenol or Tums and throwing off your pH. So I love peppermint. Have you used peppermint much, Scott?
Peppermint's the one I'm probably the most familiar with in
Okay.
terms of essential oils specifically.
And how do you use it?
I use it for itchiness.
Okay, tell us
Um,
about that.
when I went to Canada last year to visit family, um, basically I got these really weird bites. I had no idea what they were from. And my mum suggested, oh, why don't you try this peppermint oil? It's supposed to be good for that. So I just kind of just dabbed it on, and I don't know the science behind it, but it stopped, and it smelt cool, and it sort of cooled the skin around. So when it was my skin was obviously annoyed from the bite, and it wasn't too strong to use directly on it, but also it just took the itch away.
Yeah, awesome.
You know.
Well, peppermint is an active ingredient in many of the products that you're probably already using. In fact, if you look at a bottle of that deep jelly muscle ice, it'll often say the active ingredient is 11% menthol, the Latin word for peppermint. And so, meaning that
Mhm.
so much of what we put in our body is just filler. And and it's the plants that are actually helping us. And so I love peppermint too. One thing I find fascinating, I have visited Young Living farms around the world. If you're wondering why people are so crazy about Young Living, because there's lots of oils on the market, most oils are bought in bulk on the commodity market, just like grain or orange juice. It is rebottled and relabeled and put out on the shelves of our stores. What is so unique about the Young Living brand is that they own their own farms around the world, meaning that across the US, there's many farms. In Canada, there's a farm. Australia, there's farms. Indonesia. And so they're growing the plants in their native area, and they are in control of the process right from the quality and health of the soil, the chemical-free processes of growing the plants that are all about sustainable agriculture, renewable agriculture, right through the distilling till it gets in the bottle. So people are so crazy about it because they can literally smell the difference. It's so, you know, everything that goes into each drop of this is so dependent on the health of that plant.
And that's important too, that it's sort of the big picture of where they're coming from, because as you say, there's lots of options sort of out there, and a lot of people say, oh, they don't work, or they're, you know, they're actually cause they're more toxic to me than beneficial. And you realize that it's kind of the gray zone of what you have to know, the company that you're getting them from, and like you say, from the farm all the way to the bottle in your hand, you have to trust that that's been processed correctly.
Yeah. And most people can truly smell the difference. So, you know, if we were all in one living room and somebody said, I have this other oil, that never bothers me. I just go, that's awesome. Let's smell it. And the look on people's faces is really amazing. So another one is RC comes in the kit. It's for everything respiratory. It is great to put on your neck and your chest. It has eucalyptus oils in it. So the kit has for all the body systems. The other one I want to talk about that lots of people request support with is pain management. So whether that's arthritis, sore body parts, or headaches, Panaway is a blend of oils. And this blend has such a great story. I really want to share it with you.
Okay.
There's so much history around plant healing, but if you smelt this Panaway right now, and maybe you can take yourself there, it smells like root beer. So
Okay.
a long time ago, people would gather wintergreen bushes and boil them and drink the beverage from the wintergreen plant. And it was a known anti-inflammatory. As time passed along, then the pharmaceutical industry began, and they had to figure out how to get people to, you know, start coming in and getting medicine versus collecting it on their own. And there's actually, Miranda showed me, she had found these old nursing posters that showed dosages of wintergreen for pain. So like
Oh, cool.
of wintergreen for pain at a 5 out of 10. It was fascinating. So anyways, wintergreen is in this blend. What is even more interesting is that because our palates were so accustomed to drinking the wintergreen beverage, that when the beverage industry came along in carbonation, that root beer taste became something people were already drinking. So they developed it into a beverage. Now your root beer on the market today has no wintergreen or medicinal benefits, but originally that's where our palates became accustomed to that taste. Isn't that amazing?
That's really cool.
So cool, right? So that is in Panaway. I rub Panaway if I have cramps, my mom's sore knees. It is a great oil for pain. Think pain away. So if you're in pain or you know somebody in pain, get them some Panaway to try. Scott, what other stuff are you curious if there is oils that support it?
Well, my big thing is, I last year I ran a marathon, and I'm trying to keep up with my running. So any way that I can benefit, sort of being able to breathe clearer or relieve that muscle pain at the end of the day, I'm sort of really keen about that. And I'm really keen about um, household cleaners, particularly for two effects. One, what we put on our counters eventually ends up down the drain. So it's kind of having the consciousness. You don't want to put a whole bunch of horrible stuff down there. And also, I've got cats, so we don't want them licking up bleach. So
Yeah.
I try to be really picky about what types of cleaners we use. Just, you know, on the off chance that they get a little bit on their paw, you know, it's not going to be as dangerous, or we'll know exactly what's in the cleaner to help them. So I'd say between running and cleaning and breathing, sort of the essential things in life.
I love it. Running, cleaning, and breathing. Okay, let's start with cleaning because I think you've hit probably one of the most important pieces, and probably the number one reason people are attracted to Young Living is connected to pets and cleaning. Thieves oil also comes in the kit. Many people have heard of Thieves. Thieves is a blend of 5 oils. Now, the ancient story of Thieves is that during the Black Plague, there was a group of thieves get at the name, thieves,
Okay.
robbing from the sick and dying. And the short story is they got caught, and the king said, how come you guys aren't getting sick? They were spice merchants, and they were anointing themselves in a vinegar blend, they called it, a blend of oils. Dr. Gary Young, who started Young Living 26 years ago, this company's been around for a long time, researched the oils that they were using, plants that they were using to find out their medicinal properties, found out they were highly antiviral, antibacterial, and supported the immune system. So created the blend called Thieves. For sure, Young Living's top selling blend. We diffuse it all day long in our house. Now, because Thieves was so popular, they developed a whole line of cleaning products. And the reason this is so significant, and I am with you, Scott, on this, like, we live in the country here, so we have a septic field, meaning our septic tank, what that looks like for people who don't understand, fills with solids, and the liquids basically flow underground back into our soils, back, eventually filter down into our water table. And most of the world's sewage is using some sort of natural filtration back to the earth. And even in urban centers, much of the waste is still ending up eventually being pumped into rivers, watersheds, etc. So it's so vital that as a society, we start to make better choices around this. So anyways, they developed Thieves Cleaner, very popular cleaner. It comes as a concentrate. You mix it with water. And I love that you brought up the animal piece. My friend, Shailene, had a dog that was getting stomach troubles. They kept taking to the vet, lots of medicines. They switched to the Thieves Cleaner, no more stomach issues. Because the dog was absorbing, just like we're absorbing, and babies crawling on the ground are absorbing, everything we wash the floor with. And then they lick their paws, and it impacts their entire body systems, particularly digestion. But it is so critical to be aware of the cleaners in your home.
For sure. That's a big topic for me.
Yeah.
I'd rather live in a mess than try to risk it sometimes.
Yeah, and the idea that it's, that it smells clean when we are using Vim and Pledge and Lysol and stuff like that, they now know that the rates of cancer are phenomenally higher in house cleaners. It's even higher in mothers who stay home because they're always within a sealed home with fumes in it from cleaning products. This is a really critical conversation, and so many cleaning products on the market are greenwashed, meaning they might call them like the green natural cleaner, and it's owned by like Clorox. And if you actually look through the ingredients, it's not what you want it to be. So I love the Thieves Cleaner. If I had it here, one of the things I always do when I show people is I spray my hand and I lick it to show how confident I am that if my children are using it and they spray each other, no big deal. I want them to help me clean. And it's the only cleaner that we use in our house. So for everything, toilets, we use it for absolutely everything. Thieves Cleaner is amazing, and we'll be sure to post some information about that. But that's the story of Thieves.
That's a good story.
So the other topic that you briefly brought up as one of the key things is sleep. And I really believe that our bodies heal when we sleep. And if you're on this call, maybe you're a lucky person who has slept outdoors. And maybe you can remember how amazing those sleeps were. And part of that is that connection to the natural world. I sleep every night with a diffuser by my bed running because diffusing is so good for our emotional brain. Sleep so related to our emotional state. Lavender is a great oil to diffuse for sleep, as well as cedarwood. Cedarwood helps to naturally release melatonin in the body. And if you're not getting a good night's sleep, you're putting all of your body systems, under stress, because our digestion happens when we sleep, hormonal regulation. If you can improve your sleep by even 10%, it's going to improve all of your health by 10 or more percent.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's my thoughts on sleep. And the other one is running, you mentioned. You know what? I want to bring up this oil related to you, Scott, for running. I imagine you run because you feel better and it gives you more energy. Lemon oil is an oil that I fell in love with. I didn't know much about oils 6 years ago when I got this kit. You know, we all learn as we go. I couldn't get enough lemon when I first started. I would just pour it down my back. Now we know that lemon
Okay.
and all citrus oils are high in D-limonene, which is an ingredient in antidepressants. So when I need some extra zip, when I am feeling kind of blue because it's snowy outside, maybe when I can't get outside for my walk in nature, I put lemon oil
Hmm.
on the back of my neck and it gives me some extra energy. So that's the one I would put on before you go for a run.
That's a good tip. And it's interesting to know, like, you've shown us a few places, like specifically where you put the oils as well, because sometimes it's not necessarily do the same thing with and just use a variety of oils and you'll get different benefits. You have to kind of know how to use them. And how would you? Do you think it is trial and error, or do you think there's a bit of recommendations for that, or is that kind of a broad topic?
Yeah, no, you know what I'd love to do is if people are interested, we can, not if people are interested, we will. I do regular classes on how to use each of the oils in the kits and where to put them on your body. But I do want to share one thing. And if there's nothing else you get from this call, it's learning to trust yourself. And so when you get your oils, and the way Young Living works is you order online and they're shipped right to your door. So we'll have a link that you can order from. But when you get your oils, definitely do some research. Reach out to me for help. We'll connect you with resources. Learning to use the oils that you're attracted to, number one. So if you just love frankincense or you just love copaiba, use it. Try not to overthink that. That is your body giving you guidance, saying inner wisdom, saying, this feels good to me. Use that. Second part, so number one, learning to trust what you're attracted to. Second part, learning to trust where you are attracted to putting it on your body. So that can take a little bit of practice, but the same thing that I said, that lemon oil, for some reason, I just felt like I wanted it on my neck. That's our spinal cord. All of our nerves run through there. As we learn to trust ourselves more and get reconnected back into our body, we will be given so much guidance as to what we need. In addition to that, yes, we offer training constantly on what oils support what body systems, how to use oils to support hormones or pets or emotions, and definitely there's so much information out there. But for the sake of today, I really want to encourage people to just connect to that desire to
Yeah.
use natural products.
Well, that's just it. And I think, yeah, just tying everything kind of together. It's just reconnecting with something that is natural, something that is pure, and just kind of seeing what it does for you as a person, maybe, and reflecting on that and seeing, oh, how can I use this for
Yeah.
myself, for my own goals.
Yeah, reflecting on it is the key one. How do I feel when I breathe this in? Does that feel good? Do I want more of that? When I first started using these oils, it just started to feel so good and I wanted more and more. And then eventually it reconnected me also to just being outside more. And today I teach classes on forest bathing, helping people feel safe again within that environmental space of the forest so that
Yeah.
they know that they can go there for solitude, for peace, for reflection, for contemplation, for healing, and feel comfortable, as you say, in doing that.
That's really good. I think that it it helps on a deeper level, and I think people are open to the ideas now as well. I don't think it's not way out there nowadays. I think people are kind of cluing into, hang on, there is a lot of toxicity in my life, and there is a lot simpler ways we can reconnect.
I agree.
So
And Scott, before we go, it would be foolish of me not to capture the fact that you shared, and you shared with me, and I'd love it if you could share with all of us. As a male, you brought up how deeply connected males are to specific scent groups. And when you shared that with me, I was like, I was so deeply touched by that awareness that you had. Would you offer that wisdom up for all of us?
yeah, of course. I think the way that it was sort of posed to me is, oh, it's nice to hear a man interested in the benefits of oils or something to that effect. And I said, well, men do like oils. They just think of it differently. So when the men like the smell of sawdust, we like the smell of barbecues, we like the smell of cigars. That's just tobacco oil. That's just the herb oil from grilling on the barbecue, or the pine oil coming out of the sawdust. We're connecting to it, as you say, sort of on that primitive level, but we just we don't want frilly flowery things, but we do have that connection still.
Yeah.
And I think it's sort of, we you word it differently sometimes when you but you're calling it the same thing, and it's connecting to nature, however you call it.
I just think that is so brilliant. Like such a brilliant awareness. And I hope, as we come to a close here, I hope we can remember that each of us are so deeply connected to the energy of plants, and in our own unique way. And the more that we can spread this information, I really believe the more people we can help feel better and feel that they're connected to something larger, and more purpose-filled than they can imagine.
Yeah, I
Any
I would agree with that.
any closing thoughts, Scott, before we sign off here?
um I suppose just from my point of view, it's the more I can make the indoors like the outdoors, because I am a bit restricted being in a city and having buildings around I don't have a big backyard or anything like that. And I think the more I can make my personal environment comfortable, the more I kind of feel connected to the memories I have as a young child. I think that was a good discussion we had,
Hmm.
sort of tying everything together.
Yeah, so good. It's within our control to connect back to what the feel-good state in our body, and scent can bring us there like that. And so we have this tool at our disposal. Why not use it, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, I am going to stop the recording.